Hello and welcome to 2025, everyone.
Yay!
In this podcast, we're going to be talking about why we sold Esper. Why did we sell Esper?
Let's find out.
Why did we leave that lifestyle behind? And how we sold Esper. Now, we were planning to do this from a slightly different location. We were hoping that we were going to be somewhere on the water.
Yes, but as you'll see if you're watching this podcast, we're in a house. Specifically, your parents' home.
Yes, thank you, Mother and Father, for putting up with us. We have descended upon them once again for me, because I was only here a couple of months ago, and they've very kindly put up with us as we try and arrange our future plans, which have a little bit of a hiccup. They've been slightly delayed by about a week. We were planning to do this episode from a floating vessel of some description.
Shush, don't give anything away. Hello, I'm Liz.
And I'm Jamie.
Welcome to Follow the Boat, in which we discuss what it's really like to give it all up to live on a boat.
And go travelling around the world. We've been doing it since 2006 and we're still at it.
Each week we talk about our latest YouTube video.
And about boats, sailing, travel or anything else which floats into our heads.
And if you leave a comment we like, we'll give you an answer and a name check. Peace and fair winds. So we have got very exciting plans, but they will be unveiled in the next
possibly the
thing
next episode. We're not sure yet, but we will keep you posted on that. But I think this is something that we alluded to in the last episode as to why we sold Esper. And I think it's quite important to answer that, because a lot of people have been asking exactly that question. Why would you leave behind this incredible lifestyle that you had in the tropics, visiting these far-flung islands, to return to a freezing cold UK? And it literally is freezing at the moment.
It's a very good question. Why have we sold it? Loads and loads of reasons. And the cold that you allude to is literally not one of those reasons. I've had the flu. And that was one of the reasons we're a bit late to the party in 2025. So I've been literally delirious in my room, unable to move, but Jamie's been tending to me like a good nurse that you are. Nursed the worst of it over, and now we are ready to talk about why.
People might ask, well, that's a reason for not coming back to cold UK, you're catching the flu, but I think every other person has the flu at the moment, so there's something
going round, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, so what I thought we would do is to present a little pie chart. Now, for those of you listening only and can't see the video, I'm going to hold up this little pie chart, which is shaped in the shape of Pac-Man. There we go, there's our pie chart. And Pac-Man represents about 80% of one reason why we have given up this lifestyle. And it is quite simply to be closer to family.
Yeah, and friends.
And friends, secondary. But so hopefully Mum and Dad won't mind me talking about this, because they do watch these videos. But Mum and Dad are now of a certain age. Mum has literally just turned 80. Happy birthday, Mother. And they're not going to be around forever. Let's face it.
None of us are.
None of us are. So we wanted to spend more time with them now while they're still active. Now, they've both had various health concerns, as you do as you get older. But what we didn't want to do was to return to the UK when, we were having to literally just nurse them. We wanted to come back to the UK while they are still active, and they are still very active people. So this was really the primary reason. And it's mainly because a few years ago, if you remember, Liz went through a similar situation, didn't you?
I did, yes. Being that bit older, my parents were very old. And they, like yours, had extremely active lifestyles, were very mobile right up towards the end. But Mum got quite ill and it dragged on a bit. So it meant me going back from Southeast Asia to go and spend time with her, because like Jamie, I wanted to be with my family. At this stage, it was really too late to enjoy walks or anything with her. So my time back in the UK was usually spent tending to her, looking after her, just sitting with her and being with her. Not so much my dad, but it was sad that he went as well a few years later. But it did mean having to take expensive long flights from where the boat was, that we couldn't really afford, to be with them, and I missed them when I wasn't there. And it was a quite hard time to go through, and that went over about 4 years, leaving Jamie behind on his own and me on my own with my parents looking after them. So I didn't want him to go through the same thing. I really didn't. So when we started to think about his own parents reaching 80 plus, it seemed like the perfect time to go back home after 20 years on the boat and spend real quality time with them rather than leaving it too late.
I think that's the key thing, is to come back and spend quality time. Now, the last 2 or 3 times I've been back to the UK, I've spent a considerable amount of time here. It hasn't been for like a 2-week holiday as it used to be. I've been back and spending 2 months or so, and that is simply because I just want to spend more time with primarily mum and dad, but of course my brothers and their nieces and their sons, daughters, my nieces and nephews, and of course extended family as well. And we are quite a close family, and so there are, like my cousins, for example, who I'm also close to, my aunt who sadly lost her husband recently. We're not getting any younger, and we want to spend more time with our family, and in addition to that, of course, our friends as well.
And I think we feel that we've had 20 years living on the boat, exploring some incredible places, going through experiences that we'll never forget and that we'll probably never have again and wouldn't have done if we hadn't lived this life we've been living on the boat. It's been simply marvellous, an incredible experience. But 20 years, I wouldn't say we're tired of it, but we think we've had the best of it. So we're ready, aren't we?
We are ready. I think also we are the sort of people that look forward rather than look backwards. I know when we made this decision, I did worry a little bit about what I was leaving behind and what I was going to be missing. But I realised that Liz and I are the sort of people that whatever situation we're in, we're always looking forward and preparing for the next adventure, the next bit of boat maintenance, whatever it is. We're very good at living in the moment.
Yeah, I think that's the key, the living in the moment. So if you start spending your days and hours thinking about what was, or worse, what might have been, you've lost it. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Live in the moment and perhaps plan for some exciting things to come. One of the things we always did when we were on the boat, moving from country to country or doing some long distance sailing, is we would be leaving somewhere that had meant a lot to us. We'd be leaving people behind that we'd grown to love. We left lots of dogs that we loved. We'd befriended, and cats, of course, and some extraordinarily beautiful places. And to leave them behind was very hard. I mean, the biggest one was leaving India. When we left India, we'd been there just under 3 years, and we could have stayed another 3 years. But we thought, this is ridiculous. We live on a boat, we're supposed to be going places. And leaving Kerala was like leaving a piece of our heart behind. But I tell you, the moment we left the dock, we went through the passage out into the Arabian Sea. That was it. We'd forgotten, and we were on to the next thing.
And that's happened every single time we've weighed anchor and moved on. You get so comfortable in a place and you fall in love with a place. But the moment you weigh anchor and you move on, you're looking forward to that next venture. And I think most sailors will understand that sentiment, this feeling of looking forward towards adventures. But the same applies also to a complete change in lifestyle. And we should add that this isn't a complete change in lifestyle that we're looking forward to. We will talk more about it, but it will continue to be on the water. So there is that at least. Yeah. And travelling, yes. It's just going to be in a very different place. So I think we are very excited about what 2025 is going to bring us. And it's great now that we are back home with family and closer to friends. But there are lots of new and exciting things we're going to be doing, which are completely different from what we've done for the last 20 years. One of which is contending with the freezing cold weather.
Yeah, so it is cold, but there are lots of lovely things you can wear on your feet and on your body and on your head that keep you warm. So I've actually been nice and warm. I mean, I sadly caught this bloody flu that's going around, but not because I was cold. So the nice thing about being back here in the UK and thinking about the family and the friends is that at a drop of a hat, wherever we are, we'll be able to get on a train or get to wherever we need to be in the UK in a day. There's no more having to book flights, spending 30 hours on a plane to try and get somewhere. So although we're not going to be living here in this house with your parents, we're not actually going that far, or even in this area necessarily, we will be able to visit everybody whenever we feel like it. It's quite a freedom for us. It really is a difference, isn't it?
I know, and a few people just before we moved off of Esper were saying, well, what are you doing going back to the UK? Do you know how cold it is there?
Yeah.
We're like, yes, we do, because we were born and we were brought up here. We know how to manage it. So that's just
Going back to the pie chart.
going back to my pie chart here, which I hold up, as you can see. That is pretty much family and friends. So the remaining, 20% of our reason for leaving that lifestyle, I guess, is...
If you find this topic interesting and would like to continue the conversation, come and join the Follow the Boat Discord community. Look for the link in the description. It's free.
Well, the number one reason for me was weather.
Weather, yes.
Because although it is lovely and hot and sunny where we were, and although it is cold and miserable where we've come to, I found the heat unbearable.
So that's the next bit, which is health. I suppose we could talk a bit about health. And I think the main thing was you and this problem that you had with overheating.
Yeah, I was really beginning to overheat. And although I didn't mind it so much when we started, certainly in the Med it's a different type of heat. You can get very hot in the Med, 40 plus centigrade. The heat you get in the tropics is relentless, and it's all day and all night, 365 days of the year. Never changes. It's always very, very hot and extremely humid, for those of you who've not been here. So as you get a bit older, particularly as a woman, you find dealing with the heat more and more difficult because your body is overheating, your hormones are doing very strange things to you. So you're getting a lot more heat in your body. Strangely, you also feel the cold, but that's another thing. So all this raging hormones that are running around my body as I'm getting older were adding discomfort to the already difficult conditions that we were living in.
Of course, you've also got this thyroid problem as well, which could be contributing to it. But it does, it explains why when you go to the tropics, you see lots of older ladies of a certain age just sort of seemingly lounging around doing nothing, but you realise
just the women.
It's men as well. But this problem that you have is clearly a known issue with women of a certain age, and this overheating issue, and it's why you see a lot of women under those little canopies sitting around.
Yeah, everyone moves much slower in the tropics, and the men will sit under. Nobody sits in the sun ever. The only people who do that are mad dogs and Englishmen. Nobody sits in the sun. Nobody wants the sun on them because it's too hot. So they will sit under things. They will have an afternoon siesta like they do in the Mediterranean, and they will do the more energetic work in the evenings. And that's really what we were doing. So one of the things we do love doing is exploring. There's no point doing all this sailing to new destinations if you can't get on shore because it's too hot. So we would do as much as we could. And as the time got on, I was finding that going ashore at dawn, certainly in the dark sometimes, until about 9 o'clock was about it.
Yes, which brings us on to the next little reason for coming back is the exercise and the ability to be able to go for walks any time of day in the UK. It was one of the issues that we were finding on the boat. Well, there were the two main problems was the heat and the fact that if you wanted to do anything active, you had to do it before sunrise. And you had to return to the boat by 9 o'clock in the morning, by which time it's too hot to do anything. The second issue, of course, is when you're at anchor and you want to, say, go into town, go for a walk, do some photography ashore, logistically it becomes a bit of a drag, dropping the dinghy down, finding somewhere to land the dinghy safely, drying off your feet that have just got wet from dragging the dinghy up the beach and so on. It was not something that annoyed us, but the ability now with our future plans will be to be able to just literally step off our new vessel
Bliss.
straight onto land and go off for walks, which is something that we love doing. It's something I've done a lot of with mum and dad since I've been back, is the ability to just go for a walk whenever you fancy it.
Yeah.
Providing you've got the right clothing, it's so simple. And there's something else that may assist in this exercise,
I know what
this
you're
new
thinking
exercise
of.
regime.
Yes. So a dream is to have a dog. Dream. Can't wait. So when we tell you more about the next step, hopefully not long after that, we will be getting a rescue dog. Can't wait. So excited about it. Desperate. I've always had animals throughout my entire life, dogs and cats, and living without one has been really difficult these last few years. Well, after we lost Millie, part of the family, there were the three of us, and then there were two. So there's going to be three of us again. That's something to look forward to. Just going back to one thing you said about the dinghy, though, it does sound like we're whinging a little bit.
We are whinging.
Yeah, we are.
We're Brits. We're whinging
We're whinging Brits. So when we started, it was exactly the same. It's always been the same, that it's a mission to go shopping, to drop the dinghy. I mean, we always hoist our dinghy, which is why we're always, there's that added thing. We don't leave it in the water. So, yeah, it is a mission to do it. And after 20 years of it, the excitement of that mission wears off a bit. And although we had it down to a T, we didn't really have to think we'd how to do it, and it was very easy. In some ways, it just becomes a drag. It adds to the things that are pushed.
Yeah. For me, it was preventing that ability to just, I fancy a walk, and just opening the front door and being able to go off and do that exercise and not have to worry about all the extra bits that are involved in that.
Now we'll have a little dog saying, come on, give me a walk. It's my time for a walk, I want to walk. Let's go. Of course, we have to do it in all weathers.
Yeah, well, that's, as I said, as long as you're dressed up for it, it's not a problem, is it?
That's right. So the nice thing about being in a cold climate like this is you can just add things. As it gets colder, you wear bigger, fluffier boots, bigger socks, you put your thermals on, you buy a hat, a scarf, nice gloves, and you're toasty warm. Whereas in the tropics, I would want to cool down, and the only place I could cool down was on Esper at anchor in the cockpit under cover with that lovely breeze coming through. That was the perfect place. But I was doing that day after day, week after week, and as much as I love Esper and still love her, I needed more than that.
I think also something some people may be questioning is the new places and the new people that we were meeting and discovering as we led this great lifestyle for 20 years. And I'm not saying that ever got boring, it never really got samey, but at the same time, I think that attitude, that positive attitude of going off and discovering new people and places can be applied to anything and anywhere that you are in the world. Yeah. You don't need to be on a sailboat in the tropics to have that sense of adventure and excitement. It is just as easily done in the UK. I was only looking at a map the other day of Lincolnshire, and I was discovering places I have never heard of. I mean, vast forests I have never even heard of in the UK. There is so much to see here. Despite both being born and brought up here, there are swathes of the UK that we have neither heard of nor discovered or visited. And I think that's quite an exciting, it's very different, but it's also very exciting. And being able to go into a town and chat to local people.
Yes, it's great. We're going to be now looking at our home country as tourists, because we're going to see all these places we've never been to. And I'm, even in this very early stage, suddenly realising why people come to this country. It has a lot to offer. When you look at the architecture, we were up north, and now we're back down south. Some of the buildings, I mean, there are people living in 1,000-year-old cottages, and beautiful townhouses that are 600-700 years old, ancient minsters that are 1,200, 1,500 years old. We've got extraordinary history, castles, you name it, it's all there. So much to see, and we've seen a tiny bit of it. So really excited about that from the ancient cultural side of things.
And I think also from a photographic and a videographic point of view, that was another concern of mine was, of course...
big one.
Yeah, my main focus really, excuse the pun, is travel photography and street photography. Now, my photography may change if we are going to be based on the water in the UK. We could be in very different situations. So my photography subjects, I think, will possibly change. But again, that's not a problem. That's an exciting prospect. That's something new to delve into and spend more time learning about. So, yeah, another positive I see.
Yeah, and there's a load of wildlife here that we're unfamiliar with. I mean, I can't even identify quite a lot of the trees. I've forgotten so much. I used to be able to identify wildflowers. I'm looking forward to getting back to that. And as the sister of a butterfly collector when he was a little boy, he used to know all my butterflies. Loads and loads and loads of wildlife to see. So yeah, we're very, very excited about what's going to be happening, but we can't tell you about it yet, and it's probably not what you think.
No, it's not what you think. I can guarantee it's not what you think. But hopefully you're going to be as excited about this new lifestyle as we are. And of course, we will continue to do the podcast, the episodes and so on. I think the episodes, I'm kind of hoping will take a slightly different direction.
Yes, they're not going to be as rigid. You know, we were churning them out every week. And if we don't feel we have something to say that week, we won't. So we want to make sure that the quality is high and there's always something to say, not just for the sake of it.
Yes.
So hopefully you'll get videos that are a bit more interesting.
Definitely. We'll talk more about that perhaps later on in the year. So, okay, so those are a few reasons as to why we've moved back to UK. The main one is family, but there are a few other reasons. But I think to summarise it is that we see this as a new and exciting prospect.
Yes,
it's something to look forward to, and we hope you're as excited about it as we are. So the second bit that we want to talk about was how we sold Esper and the fact that we seemingly sold it in the space of 3 months. It went very quickly.
Could have been quicker.
Did you know that liking and subscribing on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts helps us to get noticed? Go on, give us a helping hand.
Once we'd made the decision we were going to do it, we got in touch with a friend of ours who is a broker. And the number one thing I would say to anybody, don't do it privately, go through a broker. They know what they're doing, they take the pain away. He dealt with all the paperwork, all the bureaucracy. We're selling a British flagged boat in a foreign country, and it ended up to being, the buyers weren't from that country either. So there's a lot of stuff going on, quite a lot of legal stuff involved. And he did it all. We didn't have to deal with any of it, apart from produce the right papers. So we chose Paul to do it. We discussed with him the price, and that's, of course, the main thing, isn't it? It's the price. I asked him, well, basically we came up with a price that he was happy with, that he could sell it at. It's really important.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Now, we've spoken to Paul about selling boats generally, and he said there were two problems he has to contend with. The first is a boat that looks like a shithole. And he's been approached by people who've said, can you come on board and have a look at my boat, see if you could sell it for me? And he's recoiled in horror at the state. So the first tip is to tidy your boat up. But
clean it.
Following on from that, though, is to not spend money on it.
Yes. So Jamie went back to the UK, but got everything off the boat so that she looked neat and tidy. She wasn't full of crap everywhere. And we put all that into somewhere to look after it. We put it into storage. So the boat looked a lot better already, but she was quite dirty, things behind things. So I spent a good week cleaning her. And then I spoke to him about what I should do next, because I thought that I would need to perhaps revarnish things.
Well, you even started.
I did, yeah.
You started scraping away at the varnish around the companionway that needed revarnishing, and he just said, "Stop! Don't do anything more to it. Yeah. Make it presentable, but do not spend any more money on it. Instead, you list the things in the sale as to what's working and what isn't."
We were quite embarrassed about the fact that our chart plotter in the cockpit had stopped working. It's the first thing you see, it's right in your face. And we thought, all right, we're going to have to replace that. He said, no, you don't, you just leave it. We list it as not working. The radar had stopped working. We list that, but we say it's not working. The big chart plotter down below and the computer and everything was still working. But there were a few things that a buyer would immediately see. We thought that was going to be problematic. Not at all. Not at all. As long as it's in the listing and it's listed as not working, and you adjust the price. You adjust the price, you say, right, it's going to cost them this, this and this to replace these things. So let's make sure that the price is reasonable to allow them to then spend a bit more or however much they want to spend on things that need replacing. That's up to them. So he said to me, what we'll look at is we'll list it at one price. We won't expect to get that price. We'll expect to get less because everybody negotiates. And we'll hope that we might get the price we put down. So it's like 3 prices. There's the price we put which you don't expect. There's a price we'd like to achieve, and then there's the rock bottom price. So we put the high price down as negotiable.
Yeah. So those two problems that Paul had, one was the state of the boat and the second one was the price. And Paul has had people, and in fact, sad to say actually, through the sale of our boat, we have recommended Paul to a number of people who are also interested in selling their boat, and one or two have gone to him with their idea of the price and have insisted on it going on the market at that price, to which Paul has said it is not a realistic price. You won't sell it for that. So then you have to think, well, do I want to try and get that price but take a lot longer to sell it? Because let's face it, you're going to have marina fees racking up as you're trying to sell this boat.
Things will gradually start to go wrong on the boat unless you're using it all the time as well.
So yeah, as you said, a price you'd like and a price that realistically you can sell it for. And that is why Esper sold so quickly, was that we had it on for a good price, and we had so many people saying to us, that's a really good price.
Yeah.
Whoever gets that's going to get a decent boat. But for us, the most important thing was that we wanted to sell quickly.
Yeah, and we wanted to try and make back what we didn't make back what we spent, but we certainly sold her for more than we bought her for 20 years ago, which is nice. More than we sold her for more than we thought we would get when we initially thought about it.
Yeah, except bear in mind, of course, we did have a refit in between the buying and selling, which cost proportionately more. But I think that whole price thing is very important, and to not waste your money replacing things thinking that you're going to get that money back.
No, don't do it. Just clean it all up, make it look beautiful, get some nice photos taken. That's really important. And listen to the broker, it's their job. They want to sell your boat, and they don't want to sell it at a rock bottom price. They would like to sell it at the best price. So I would say go with the broker. We did break Yacht World. The server went down. Now, obviously, the other thing that helped us is being a YouTube channel. People who are interested in boats were watching us, or certainly knew of us. And I think we put out Esper's for sale, or our boats for sale, or something, and it had a lot of views.
This is our advert on Yacht World?
No, our video. When our video went out, we said.
But also, you said that the server went down. Just to explain, the advert went on Yacht World, and it got so many hits that we actually had people complaining to us saying, hey, the photos won't load, and it's because there was so much interest. I think most people were just wanting to know what we were selling Esper for. Yeah. But there was clearly a lot of interest in her, because despite having these two potential buyers lined up from Paul, we also had people approaching us in the marina itself, knocking on the boat saying, hey, if your sale falls through, can we be next in line? Yeah,
so we passed every inquiry over to Paul. He dealt with them direct. He knew straight away the buyers that he felt were right. He fielded everybody else, and he sent forward to us, told us about the others. He didn't keep them to himself. But we took his advice that this particular buyer was serious, and they were asking the right questions. You know, when you're selling a boat, if someone knows what they're talking about, they sounded, although it turns out they don't have that much experience, they've got a lot of theory, and they've done their basic competent crew type work.
They had definitely been doing their research. And we saw from the test sale actually how enthusiastic they were and how inquisitive they were, which is exactly the sort of people we wanted.
Yeah.
But the other reason for, of course, the quick sale was the YouTube channel itself. There's no denying that having a famous boat, I put in quote marks, helped our cause. And of course, for a potential buyer, they've got 10, 15 years worth, plus the blog of
work.
All the work that we've done on the boat, which tripped us up a couple of times, because they did get in touch via Paul saying, oh, we watched episode 279 in which they had a problem with their dripless seal. You know, have they solved that problem?
We couldn't even remember what the problems were.
But good on them for doing the research and watching the videos. So I think that was a nice bonus for them, wasn't it?
So that's how we sold her. We used a broker. We put her up at a price that was realistic, that gave us enough money, and that the broker felt very comfortable with. We are a YouTube channel, that did help us be the advert was looked at immediately, so we got a lot of people immediately interested. These particular guys, they came to see the boat. Jamie's obviously away throughout all of this. They came to see the boat with Paul. I met them. Not long after that, they made the offer. They did make an offer. It was less, obviously, than we were asking for. We took a view that it was fine. My feeling, as having been in sales 20 years of my life, is that the first offer is nearly always the best offer. go for it. Don't hang around. And as Jamie said, you know, get it done quickly. You've got less overheads.
Well, we know so many boats have been on the market for over a year, and you've got to think, well, how many thousands of pounds or dollars is that in mooring fees in a marina?
Think about that.
Yeah.
So we accepted it, and I'll be honest with you, we would have been out of Malaysia a month earlier if you hadn't been away. We had to wait for Jamie to come back for the test sail. All right, didn't have to, but there's no way I was going to be on Esper on my own without Jamie there, and he needed to see the fires firsthand, and he needed to be there for the test sail. We had the surveyor on board, so you were able to answer more technical questions than me anyway. So we did that, and Bob's your uncle.
There we go.
There you go, that's how we sold her. That's how we sold her so quickly.
Great. Right. Well, if you've got any further questions, pop them in the comments. By the way, I did look at our YouTube stats, and still about 90% of you watching are not subscribed to the channel. So please do subscribe to our channel, because it really does help us with that incredibly awkward algorithm that we're always having to contend with.
Yeah.
So hit that subscribe button, and of course the like button as usual.
Yes. And if you want, sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
No, I was going to say, if you want to stay abreast of what's going on and learn about things before anyone else, come and join our Discord community. It's free. There's a link in the description. Come and join us.
Yeah, and also, by the way, you don't need the Discord app. You can access Discord through your browser, so you don't have to load up a new app on your phone. Now, there is part of the section of Discord is for our supporters only, and that is where we're going to be sharing videos and photos first of our new venture. Now, we haven't posted up too much at the moment because of this slight little hiccup we've had, which has delayed us by a week or so. But that is going to be where we'll post first before we do something a bit more public.
The trouble is, I really desperately want to put some stuff up, but because we're mariners, we are just so, we never like to say anything. We never like to, we need to be sure,
Yes.
don't we?
Yeah. But yes, it's going to be, I think, very exciting.
And very soon, hopefully.
And as we said earlier, it's not what you think it
No,
is.
it ain't.
Okay, right. Well, until next time, thanks for watching, and peace and fair winds.
Bye-bye.